2 minute drill time. It's a Tuesday. Our show, our rules. Jim Monahan along with Chris Swendeman. And we have a lot to get to this week, Swendeman, including probably the biggest news that we've had in quite some time. Pete Rose, Shoeless Joe Jackson, among those to be reinstated by Major League Baseball. And ultimately, the possibility of Rose and Jackson and the other members of the Chicago White Sox from 1919 being inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. Your thoughts on the matter?
You know, as far as Shoeless Joe Jackson, if he was, obviously the book and the movie Eight Men Out go into great detail about the team. If Shoeless Joe Jackson was trying to throw the World Series, he really sucked at it because this is a guy who until 1964, I believe, had the record for the most base hits in a series with 12. And he batted, I think, something like 346 in the World Series. And in games they won, he was batting 545. So tell me again how he was trying to throw the games.
I don't think
No,
Shoeless Joe Jackson really understood exactly what was going on with this whole thing.
right.
And the movie, they go into it. I know they play a
Yeah.
little fast and loose with some of the facts, but if you've
Yeah.
seen the movie, you know what we're talking about. He
Right.
was not the brightest bulb in the chandelier. I mean, he
No,
couldn't even
not
read
at
or
all.
write. I don't know that he was
Right.
fully aware of what was going on. And as you made the point just now, if he was trying to throw the World Series, well, he didn't do a good job of it.
Not at all. So should he be in? In my mind, it was always a huge yes. Rose, I believe we've talked about it before. I've always been a big Pete, Rose fan. He should be in. Charlie Hustle to me is one of the top 10 players in all time of MLB. He should have been in a long time ago. To do it now is disappointing because it's after the fact. But you know what? If it means his name is going to be enshrined with the greats, then so be it, because he deserves to be in it, and I'll never waver from that. I know he's not a well-liked guy in general, but as far as a baseball player, if we're talking about that's what we're talking about here, then Charlie Hustle needs to be in the Hall of Fame next to the rest of the greats.
There's a lot of baggage that comes with Pete Rose, and it goes beyond the whole betting thing, which he did admit to.
Right.
He did admit to it, but there's a whole, I mean, there's tax evasion and there's
Yeah.
an underage girl that may or may not have happened. Again, that's all above our
Right.
pay grade. Not the greatest human being in the world, but you get inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame
Right.
because of what you did on a baseball field. And I know that they look at character or they say they do, but let's be honest, it's what
Right.
you do on a baseball field.
I liken it to a little bit, somewhat, to look at somebody like Ty Cobb, hated by everybody, his own
Everybody.
teammates, everybody. He was not a likable person, but he's there. And I'm sure we could go through a laundry list if we really wanted to of players who weren't well liked, but yet are in the Hall of Fame because it's the talent and the records are what they are. Their stats are what they are. And you know what? They're not up for a beauty pageant, Jim. None of them are going to win Mr. Congeniality anytime soon. But based on baseball stats, and that's mostly what we're talking about, is the reason I think these guys should be in.
And we talked about this off air. We've been talking about this on the air as well. Once all of these major sports got into bed
Yeah.
with this betting company and that betting company, the official betting
Hmm.
partner, once that
Yeah.
happened, it was only a matter of time before Major League Baseball had to take a second look at this whole thing. Because how do you have FanDuel or DraftKings or whatever as your official
Right.
betting partner? And oh, by the way, we got to keep this guy out because there was a betting scandal. You can't have it
Right.
both ways. And I think that's one of the reasons why Major League Baseball finally came out with this edict today.
Well, I mean, to me, yeah, and I always call the commissioner man fraud because to me, I just don't feel that he has, what it takes to be commissioner. But he things evolve, and since 1919. And since Pete Rose played and managed, things have evolved. And guess what? All of a sudden, what was taboo years ago is now welcomed with open arms. So, what are you supposed to do? It's hypocritical any other way. But for years, they kept Rose out of almost everything. They did let him at a few events here and there over the years, but otherwise was completely, you know, pushed out of Major League Baseball in every which way. But now that we have our betting partners here that are throwing so much money at us and, are getting ballparks named after them as sponsors, what else are you going to do? They can't. It would be the height of hypocrisy if they didn't.
Well, you just pointed it out. It's the money. If you want to know how a decision is going to come down, follow the money. And there is a lot of money involved in this whole thing. So I believe that Jackson and Rose and the other members of the Chicago 1919 Black Sox, I think they have to wait until December of 2027 for the next voting to come up for that category. And then that would mean induction in the summer of 2028, if indeed any or all of them are going to be inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. Meanwhile, Monday night, a jarring injury for your Boston Celtics, which really changes the color of the entire series. The Celtics may win the next game, but there's no way they're getting past the Knicks now.
Listen, I am as big of a diehard Celtics fan since the days of Larry Bird. This was a crushing moment because I felt like they were beating themselves a lot of the game and they were letting the Knicks back in it. And then to watch Tatum go down, your star player, the guy. And when he went down in the heap, I just did one of these. Oh, man, because you just knew. And that was, game over, series over. Yeah, and listen, Knick fans, I'm not taking anything away from the effort of the Knicks fans because Jalen Brunson is just a stud.
He's been fun to watch.
He's been really fun to watch. This team is fun to watch. And that's coming from a Celtics fan. I don't remember the last time, other than the 90s with Ewing and Oakley and all of them, that this team has had this much hustle and this much heart. And there's just so fun to watch because they're never out of it. They just keep coming. And Jalen Brunson, when all is said and done, I think is going to be in the hierarchy of New York sports athletes when all is said and done and you have the discussion about him. But man, last night, let me tell you something. I was green, and it wasn't because of the colors I was wearing because of my favorite team. I was sick to my stomach going, that's the end of it. That's it right there. Any hope they had of coming back into the series was washed away once you lost Tatum because that is your unquestioned leader. And it's just, they may win a game on heart, like you said, just on adrenaline and let's get this one, for Jason. But other than that, man, it's the Knicks, you know what, you pretty much write your way into the Eastern Conference Finals at this point.
Before game 3, I was texting with my son, who is also a big Celtics fan. And we were talking about, he's too young to remember the Larry Bird era. But if you remember Parrish and McHale and the way they would work the ball inside and then kick it back out to Bird, who would just drive a dagger through your soul with a three-pointer. And the same thing with the most recent Celtics championship team before last year, where they had KG and Pierce, and they were working the ball
Ray Allen.
And Ray Allen is just carving you up from the outside. The game has changed. I get it. I sound like the old man yelling at the clouds. I hate the three-pointers. I actually like the three-point shot, but not the way it's being used in the NBA right now. It's 3 points or nothing for a lot of these teams. And that was the Celtic mentality in the first 2 games. And they had big leads and they, cruised on it or tried to. And the Knicks just chip away. And the game 3 that the Celtics won, if you noticed, they started to work the ball inside a little more and then kick it out for the open 3.
Right.
Which is a
the
huge
guys
difference.
like Derek White. Absolutely. It's a huge difference. I mean, and also, too, what was happening is the guys that are such huge cogs for them in the offense, the Derek Whites, the Pritchards, they were not shooting hot hands. They were cold. And when they're cold, that's a problem. Tatum did not look good at times, although last night may have been the best I've seen him the entire series, the entire playoffs for that. He was a demon. He was all over the court. But Jaylen Brown was having difficulty, and they weren't getting the chip ins from like the Al Horfords, the Porzingis, Hauser. They were, and the offensive rebounding wasn't there. So while the Knicks had the hustle, I think the Celtics were giving them a lot too because they weren't commanding the court like they normally would.
I think the Celtics, I'm sorry, I think the Knicks win this series from here. Whether they advance beyond, I don't know. And Knick fans don't care. You shouldn't. Don't worry about it. Just get this series and be done with it. Meanwhile, turning to Major League Baseball, we have Mets and Yankees in the Bronx this weekend for 3 games. And look who's starting to heat up. We talked about this last week, not counting tonight. In his last 5 games, Juan Soto, 3 home runs and 6 RBIs. And that's exactly what we said was missing so far this season was the long ball and the runs batted in, and he's starting to heat up.
Yes. It's almost like we predicted it. I mean, we must have had our crystal ball out, Jim. Who would have thunk that somebody, a generational talent like Juan Soto, would warm up and start heating up once the temperatures got warmer? Soto's heating up right at the right time, right before you go into a 3-game series at the Bronx. That place is going to be a zoo this weekend. And if he gets a hold of one, and more than likely, at least I could see him hitting at least one this weekend, if not more. The place is going to go berserk between the Met fans that'll be there and the Yankee fans that are just looking to boo him. It's going to be an insane atmosphere. And I, for one, cannot wait to watch all 3 of these games because I think we're all in for a treat, no matter who you're rooting for.
Speaking of an incredible atmosphere, this past Sunday, you and I had the chance to see Wolfgang Van Halen and his band Mammoth at a small, intimate setting, Debonair Music Hall in Teaneck. It holds about 275 people. What an amazing way to spend Mother's Day night in that kind of environment with that band.
Jim, I'm still in awe. I've only gotten my hearing back within the last couple hours, 3 days removed. I was lucky enough to be doing some video work up front, and I was right against the stage. So, and Wolfie tends, when he backs away from the mic, he goes stage left. I think I always get that wrong, but he moves to stage left to do guitar work, which was closer to me and where I was standing. I found myself jaw dropped and just like almost in a trance because watching him, and we've said this before many a time, when we talk about whether it's a singer, guitar player, drummer, whatever, the greatest ones make it look like anybody could do it. Mm-hmm. And when he was doing his song, The End, that's how he wrapped up the show. His brand new single, when he does it, there's a lot of finger tapping. And when he did that song, my mouth just hung, my jaw was just down here. You can't explain. You can't. And at one point, remember, he even tried to say, a lot of guitar players ask me, like, how do you do that finger tapping thing? And he's like, well, you kind of, he didn't know how to explain. He could do it, but he didn't know how to explain it because you know what? Nobody's got the talent to do that like he does. You can't explain it. He literally just does it. Like, it's almost like he pulls it out of the cloud. The guy is just so super talented. If you've never seen Mammoth live, they're going out on tour this summer into the fall. Please go see them.
They're at the Wellmont Theater this fall, right? In Montclair.
That's in November, yes. And let me tell you something. I've seen them multiple times. This was hands down the most amazing because I think it was just their gig, but you are in for a treat. Wolfie puts on a show and his band, and not just Wolfie, his band is amazing. Yeah, he's got amazing musicians with him.
And you and I were talking about this on Sunday as well. He talks about his dad a lot. Yes. And obviously, that is an incredible legacy to follow up. There's no question about it. Nope. And there are a lot of people who have gone after Wolfgang on social media. You're not as good as your father. You're living off your father's legacy, which is a bunch of total crap. He's not living
Absolutely.
off his dad's legacy. He
Nope.
wants to play music. And, he's on a very, very short list of people who have been at a certain level. McCartney, his son
Yeah.
James has released some music. I don't think James McCartney gets the same vitriolic response. You're not as good as your father. Julian Lennon got a little bit of it when his first album came out. But
Right.
I think in the aftermath of his dad being shot and killed,
Right.
I think people backed down from that a little bit. Zach Starkey, he's a side
Um,
man, and I don't
yeah.
take anything away
Right.
from him, but it's not the same
No.
thing. But I that's it. That's all I can think of.
Yeah, I
Danny
can't.
Harrison. How many other people have been up here at that
Right.
level as Eddie, as McCartney, as Lennon, and had a kid come up through the ranks and have to deal with that kind of pressure? It has to be overwhelming. You're not as good as your father, to James McCartney. Well, of course not. My father was a genius.
Yeah.
You're not as
Like,
good as your
what do you
dad,
want from me?
Wolfgang. Hey, listen, my dad invented a certain style of guitar playing. I'm playing
Right.
catch up, but I'm going to make some great music on my own.
And he is. You know what? He's been steadfast in that, and he's never wavered. He's never, backed down from the haters online. And he's such a good dude. Like, it's not even like just the talent is there. He's just a good human. Like, we got to talk to him very briefly after the show outside. He's just so dang humble and so into himself. And just like when the crowd reacts to him, it's almost like he can't believe
Yeah, right?
that we're reacting. He
Yeah.
generally, you can see it in his face. He's like, that's for us. Like, he's like, what more do you want from this guy of how awesome he could be? Like, I just love him. And if you've never gotten to see Mammoth live, please, please, please go do yourself a favor. Enjoy a night out of music that will make your head spin because it's so damn good.
And that's another 2 minute drill for you as we wrap things up here. Like, subscribe, do all of that stuff, download so we get the numbers up so we can keep doing this. And we will talk to you next Monday. Promise, we will talk to you next Monday. And probably Mets Yankees will be the big topic.
I'm thinking, yeah, Jim.